Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Well, getting a lot of rain is a good thing until it isn't. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Today's wet and windy weather affected many San Diegans' daily routines. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer begins our storm coverage.
Atkins is totally flooded. Look at this. Do not come down Atkins and Southeast. Watch these cars.
A strong storm pummeled San Diego County today.
My Facebook so folks can be safe and not come down the street. This is all bad.
Heavy rainfall and strong winds whipped across the San Diego region, which prompted flash flood warning, canceled transit routes, and created hazardous driving conditions that caused major road closures and interrupted people's day-to-day lives.
It's a little too much at once.
Alex Tardy is meteorologist with the National Weather Service. He says this was a significant storm.
We're seeing almost 25% or a quarter of our annual rainfall in one day.
The rain came down very fast, causing serious flood risk across much of the county, says senior meteorologist with the county's flood control district, Tyler Rodenbaugh.
We saw the heaviest rain extend from around downtown San Diego, Point Loma, and then all the way towards about Spring Valley. And in that band, there was roughly about 2.5 to 4 inches of rain.
Rodenbaugh says the amount of rainfall in Spring Valley was so intense, it registered as a once-in-a-thousand-year or more event in that area.
Oh, there's a skunk running across the street.
While the downpour brought some benefits in terms of needed rainfall, Tardy says it also caused a lot of damage.
It doesn't matter where you are in the country. If you get 2 inches of rain in a few hours in an urban area, you're going to have urban flooding.
Tardy says the worst of the storm should now be behind us, and looking ahead, this should be the last significant rainfall for January. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And as you heard, many parts of the county were flooded during today's downpour, but southeastern San Diego was especially hard hit. And KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen is live in Encanto with a look at the damage. Alex.
Well, that's right, Maya. As you can see, mud and debris is everywhere from the flood earlier today. And as you see back there, I don't know if you can see it, there's some cargo containers that have been washed up by the flood. Now, earlier today, I talked to Jessica Calix, who lives in Southcrest, and she says her house and her neighbor's house was flooded within hours. The rain came down fast and hard this morning and dumping as much as 3 inches within a few hours.
No. Wait a minute. I can't get to the house. Like, there's a big flood. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, call the neighbor, check on them. And I was like, okay. So I call the neighbors, and she FaceTimes me. And she's like, Jessica, like, look at this. And she and her children were in the water in the living room. And I kind of lost it for a second. I was like screaming. I was a little hysterical.
Now, back here live, there is still some mud and debris on the tracks. As you can see, there is still the gate is still down right now. MTS says some lines will not be running today, and others are running on limited service. So check on our website at kpbs.org for more information. Live in Encanto, I'm Alexander Nguyen. Back to you, Maya.
Meanwhile, flooded roads kept drivers and first responders on their toes in the South Bay. Police in National City had to close off a few roads to prevent people from driving through. Our media partner, KGTV, met a man whose car got stuck in the floodwaters. He tried to pull their car out before calling in a tow truck. He said driving in these conditions isn't worth it.
It's at your own risk, but I mean, even then, I'd say just stay home. Yeah. If you absolutely need to get out. But
I mean, right now you got your sneakers on too, and we're just getting flooded by the road, the water coming in. Jeez.
Definitely. So we're just gonna try to get it all out right now.
San Diego Fire Rescue says there were also water rescues in Bonita, San Ysidro, and near Imperial Beach. According to the National Weather Service, National City received around 3.5 inches of rain by 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Lots of wet weather. Yeah, buckets of rain coming down fast and furious. There were lots of flood advisories out. Even, again, parts of the area flash flood warnings. And while the wet weather is going to start to taper as we head our way into tonight, also heading in toward Tuesday, still some showers lingering. Overnight lows drop back in the 50s. What's in store as we go down the road? All those details coming right up.
On the campus of San Diego State, the constant rain actually inspired members of the California Faculty Association on the first day of a week-long strike across the state. As KPBS education reporter MG Perez shows us, union members also waded through wet picket lines at Cal State San Marcos.
The relentless rain wasn't the only noise pounding the pavement. Members of the California Faculty Association are here on the campus of San Diego State to be heard by anyone who will listen.
Faculty are on strike. Please go home if you can hear my voice.
The community, the faculty, the chancellor's office, everybody knows faculty deserve fair pay. And they're not getting it.
It is about the money, with CFA continuing to demand a 12% pay raise across the board for its 29,000 professors, lecturers, librarians, and coaches at 23 campuses, all of them on strike until the CSU negotiators come back to the bargaining table after they proposed a 5% pay hike earlier this month and then walked away.
It's wet, but it's worth it for the CFA union members who have agreed to strike through Friday, rain or shine or more rain. Their demands have not changed.
Besides the salary increase, there are other personal considerations.
We also are looking for more parental leave for our parents who bring a new child into their home. From 6 weeks to, we want a semester of paid leave. We also want some workload relief.
Officials with the university system continue to say all CSU campuses and services are open this week and no classes are canceled. Many students say otherwise.
Any student who cares about their education is here supporting their faculty and supporting their teachers and not going to cross this picket line.
We have the power! Union power!
The momentum and the rain continued on the campus of Cal State San Marcos, where there were protests and pickets that also included students who came to observe the strike, making history in real time since their professors did cancel classes.
They sent in emails saying that they're not going to update anything, they're not going to grade anything, and they're not going to answer emails at all.
CSU's Chancellor Mildred Garcia had this to say at a virtual press conference Friday.
We are ready and willing to come back to the bargaining table with the California Faculty Association, but we must work within our financial reality.
The reality for now is soaked in the sounds of a strike that will continue. MG Perez, KPBS News.
The rain forced classes at several school districts across the county to be dismissed early or even to be canceled. The following districts on your screen now will be closed tomorrow: La Mesa Spring Valley School District, KIPP Adelante Preparatory Academy, and Monarch School. San Diego City Council will consider a proposal tomorrow from Mayor Todd Gloria that would substantially change how the city regulates surveillance technology. KPBS's Scott Rodd says privacy rights advocates are not happy.
The City Council established a process in 2022 to review and approve all surveillance technology used by San Diego police and other city departments. This came after years of controversy tied to the use of surveillance devices, including streetlight cameras. The council set a one-year deadline for the review process, but so far only a handful of items out of hundreds identified by the city have been fully approved. Last year, Mayor Todd Gloria successfully pushed back that deadline by 3 years. Now he wants to see sweeping changes to how technologies are reviewed.
There's significant reductions in transparency and accountability in the changes that the mayor's office and the city attorney have introduced.
Lily Irani is a privacy rights advocate and associate professor of communication and computer science at UC San Diego. She's especially concerned that the proposal would exempt police databases and other city record systems from review, along with equipment like fixed surveillance cameras.
The city is basically saying they don't want to look at any kinds of databases that might be used by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that might be used by police, that might affect the welfare benefits that people get, that might affect the housing benefits people can get.
Gloria also wants to reduce the amount of time the city's Privacy Advisory Board has to evaluate technologies. Community members on the board would have 60 days instead of 90 days. The mayor has argued that the ordinance is too broad and ties up departments by requiring the review of benign technologies.
The fact is that we cannot allow this to grind our city operations to a halt, and we cannot allow it to jeopardize public safety.
The City Council will take up the proposal during its regular meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Scott Rodd, KPBS News.
2 Navy SEALs killed after going into the ocean off the coast of Somalia this month were identified today as members of a San Diego-based unit. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer has more.
Petty Officer First Class Christopher Chambers and Petty Officer Second Class Nathan Ingram went missing more than 10 days ago. Both SEALs were boarding an unflagged vessel near the coast of Somalia when one fell into the ocean and the other dove in after him. Officials from U.S. Central Command say ships and aircraft from the U.S., Japan, and Spain searched more than 21,000 square miles of ocean during a 10-day search, but couldn't find the men. Chambers was 37 years old and originally from Maryland. He joined the Navy in 2012 and has been part of San Diego SEAL teams his entire career. Ingram hailed from Texas and joined the Navy in 2019. He's been stationed in San Diego since 2020. He was 27 years old. U.S. officials said last week the vessel both SEALs were attempting to board was carrying Iranian weapon components bound for Houthi rebels in Yemen. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
We are just hours away from New Hampshire's first in the nation presidential primary. 22 delegates are up for grabs in the now head-to-head race between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. Julia Benbrook has the latest.
With Florida Governor Ron DeSantis out of the race.
But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory.
UN Ambassador Nikki Haley is now the clear GOP alternative to her former boss, frontrunner Donald Trump.
It is now a two-person race. We do have a country to save. But guess what? You get to start saving her tomorrow.
But the big question remains, can she close the gap on the former president?
Just go out and vote, because even if we're going to win by a lot, we got to win by more. The more we win by, the bigger a signal we send for November.
Political science professor Chris Galdieri tells me that New Hampshire provides one of the best opportunities for Haley to gain ground.
This is probably a state that's tailor-made for a candidate who's not Donald Trump. The Republicans here tend to care much more about fiscal conservatism and small government and low taxes than they do about culture war issues.
A recent CNN poll adjusted for the DeSantis exit shows Trump still holds a commanding lead in the Granite State.
If she can't close the deal here, I think it's tough for her to make a case that she can continue the campaign as it moves, back to South Carolina, back into Super Tuesday, when you'll have a bunch more conservative states that look a lot more like Iowa than New Hampshire voting.
In Manchester, New Hampshire, I'm Julia Benbrook.
San Diego nonprofit Pillars of the Community held the first of what they say will be regular clinics to help San Diegans seal their criminal records. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson followed one hopeful man through the process.
Nearly 50 people wait in Total Deliverance Worship Center in the Grant Hill neighborhood. Among them is 46-year-old Michael White, who works as an organizer. White was convicted for armed robbery in his early 20s. Even after he served his time, the record haunted him.
Out of all the expungement clinics I done helped run, this is actually going to be my first time getting, a crack at it myself, so I'm excited.
A California law took effect in July that allows most felony records to be sealed, which, unlike expungement, makes arrests and convictions mostly invisible. Millions of Californians now qualify. A clear record offers a much better shot at employment, housing, and credit. Organizers say it also frees people to chaperone field trips or coach a Little League team. It can affect the whole community. White says events like this help make record clearing more accessible.
You pull up, you got snacks, you got coffee. It's the first come, first serve. You get to sit down and talk to lawyers one-on-one and, figure out if you qualify for it. So, yeah, it's real comfortable. You ain't got to go far out and pay for parking or nothing. It's right here in the community.
I ask White what he plans to do if his record is cleared.
I'm going to apply for a job at NASA. No, I'm playing. Nothing. I'm just, just keep doing what I'm doing, helping my community members, because, it feels good to give back and help other people. So even if, I don't get it, as long as, it's a blessing.
Even if I don't get it, he keeps saying. He doesn't want to get his hopes up. But when he meets with the public defender, she tells him he qualifies and helps file the paperwork. He waits until he exits the room to celebrate.
That was cool. Did it fun? Yeah. It seemed like it. She said I'm on fire.
No man.
Organizers say they hope to hold a clinic like this once a month. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
The practice of medicine is changing from the days when you followed doctor's orders and waited for them to tell you why you're sick. Patients are taking a more assertive role in monitoring their own health. KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge says the difference today is technology in the hands of patients and the information that comes from it.
Dennis Thomas O'Connor, now 75 years old, talks about the health problems he's had. They include heart disease, prostate cancer, and being very overweight. But he was lucky to meet the right doctor and learn about the tools he could use to take control of his health.
And it gave me a sense of empowerment, it gave me a sense of knowing what to do and think about my health. And getting this feedback on a constant basis I feel it's just tuned me in to a point where I'm no longer in denial. I no longer ignore, symptoms, just the opposite.
O'Connor's toolkit includes a Fitbit, an Oura Ring that monitors sleep and body temperature, an Apple Watch, and a cardio monitor, which can give his heart an EKG at home. He monitors his health daily, and the graphed data from his monitor shows up on the computer screen of his doctor, Michael Kurisu. Kurisu is founder of a virtual clinic called Measured Wellness, which he runs out of his Carlsbad home. He remembers when he started seeing patients.
So the typical patient from that small cohort that started were patients who were somewhat the medical system had no answers for them, and they had to kind of go and do it on their own, whether they were dealing with different types of cancers or some other chronic illnesses, and they're just meeting roadblocks in the traditional medical world, and they wanted to learn more about themselves.
When he talks about his patients, Kurisu says they have a partnership. It's not a hierarchy with a doctor at the top. He says his patients share a strong motivation to take charge of their health, and it's not incorrect to call it do-it-yourself medicine.
It's just like the Home Depot. It's like, well, not going to get the plumber to come to do it myself. I'm going to learn how to do this myself, and there's a lot of learning in that.
Here's another way to look at it. Benjamin Smar compares it to the Protestant Reformation and the Catholic Church, which only published the Bible in Latin that only the clergy understood.
You had to know Latin, which meant you had to go ask the priest, what should I do? And Protestantism came out of this idea that if the Bible was translated into the vernacular, locally everybody could read their Bible and figure out what do they want to do as a community. I think this is a really interesting parallel to what we're seeing in medicine these days.
Smar is a professor at UC San Diego who splits his time between bioengineering and data science. Students in Smar's lab have analyzed some of the data collected by Kurisu's patients. They look for patterns and spikes that could indicate poor health. Smar says medicine's old priesthood, the doctors, are entering a new relationship with patients, and he hopes that relationship will be supportive and respectful.
The expectation that a doctor just magically knows the right answer for everything is totally unfair. That's not how we treat any other person. Expecting that they have an expertise and that they could contribute and that we could together augment and make a better decision, I think that's a much healthier relationship.
So I'm wearing one on my mine right here.
When you are monitoring your health hour by hour, Kurisu says the effects on your body can be known to people very quickly.
You can see how certain foods affect you, right? You can, eat pizza, see what happens to your blood glucose.
Stress is often seen in patient graphs.
The third Tuesday of every month, one of my patients says all of his data was just crashing all the time. Like, it was like, wow, your heart rate's going down, like your glucose was all over the place, your sleep was terrible. It became a pattern. And so data scientists are really good at looking at these pattern recognition. Like, well, what happened Tuesdays? You're like, well, that's when my mother-in-law comes in the house to take care of the kids.
Patients who monitor themselves have to make the time to do it, and they have to be motivated. Kurisu's patient, Dennis O'Connor, says he wasn't always motivated, but that changed after he had heart surgery and had to get 2 stents in his arteries.
I was near dying. Okay, and 2 years before that, I'd had prostate surgery, and I've been hit with this fear of death, and that did wake me up.
That's when he started really looking at his health using today's technology, and since then he has lost 65 pounds. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Households in California pay more for groceries than any other state. That's according to the Census Bureau's Household Pulse survey. It shows families pay about $297 for their groceries per week in California, and that is compared to $270 a week nationwide. Nevada and Mississippi came in second and third, and the states where families spend the least, well, those are Nebraska, Iowa, and Wisconsin. You may recall a couple of weeks ago we brought you the story of a place called Architectural Salvage. After nearly 30 years, the store in Little Italy has closed. Well, tonight, an update. After our story aired, a person stepped forward and bought all of owner Elizabeth Scalise's remaining merchandise. A statement from Scalise says a new, as yet unidentified owner is planning on opening a new reimagined store in Barrio Logan this spring.
Now we have some big league changes coming up the next couple of days as the wet weather departs. Boy, a lot of rain earlier on. We do have some warmer air on the move and an extended stretch of some dry conditions. Let's break it down. Still looking at flood watches here throughout the evening time frame. And earlier on had flash flooding here out toward Oceanside. Some spots a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, nearly an inch of rain. So again, the heaviest of the rain now is shifting gears off toward the east, but we can still see some showers lingering as we head our way throughout the overnight. So we'll go back here again. You can see the view here right around 10 o'clock again on Monday. And you can see the heaviest of the rain at that point already having slid its way off toward the east. So conditions as we venture our way into tomorrow is shaping up like this. We'll be looking at highs in the 60s. Again, a lingering shower. Best chance here towards some of the interior valleys. I think we're drying out toward Oceanside. Mount Laguna tops off at 39. Borrego Springs at 68. Here's the overall view, and not so much coastal rain, but again, some showers still over the interior. Not nearly as heavy, though, as what we saw earlier on today. Much of that moisture sliding its way off toward the east. Here's the 5-day outlook, and also notice it will be accompanied by a warming trend late weekend of the weekend toward the coast. Hey, we're going to say hello to the 70s. How about that? Out toward the interior valleys, still a shower around on Tuesday. Some low clouds hanging on Wednesday into Thursday, and then there comes our warming trend. Saturday, we're pushing 80 degrees. As we talk about the mountainous terrain, still some wind in place on Tuesday, and subtle warming here as we work our way from Thursday into Saturday. Out toward the deserts, looking at temperatures kind of holding their own, but mainly dry over the next several days. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
And here's another look at today's top stories. Just moments ago, Mayor Todd Gloria declared a state of emergency in the city of San Diego following today's storm. Gloria says the city's Emergency Operations Center has been activated and will continue to address the impacts around the clock. The American Red Cross has set up an evacuation center at Lincoln High School for people who have been displaced by the flooding. Bus and trolley service was also disrupted, with the MTS announcing most trolleys were not running between downtown running downtown, that is, because of the rain. The city of San Diego opened a temporary homeless shelter at the Balboa Park Activity Center due to flooding at multiple shelter locations. Members of the California Faculty Association kicked off a week-long strike on CSU campuses across the state today. The rain did not deter their efforts, though. Among other conditions, the CFA is demanding a 12% raise across the board for its 29,000 members. CSU proposed a 5% hike earlier this month before leaving negotiations. Tomorrow, San Diego City Council will consider a proposal that would substantially change how it regulates surveillance technology. The city established a process in 2022 to review and approve the technology, such as streetlight cameras used by police and other city departments. The proposal would reduce the amount of time the city's Privacy Advisory Board has to evaluate the use from 90 days to 60.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, we report from on the ground in New Hampshire ahead of the Republican and Democratic primaries. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley is making her final pitch to voters on primary day in New Hampshire. NPR's Morning Edition is catching up with a Republican who endorses Haley. And KPBS Midday Edition is checking in with the National Weather Service's Alex Tardy. We'll get the latest rainfall totals and today's storm and other weather updates. And as always, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.